Gender equality can be a reality in the next 15 years.
Without human rights, including reproductive rights, access to education, there will be no meaningful gender equality. We have to take action now.
Thousands of people have convened at the United Nations in New York for the 59th session of the Commission on the Status of Women. Among them, Hillary Clinton, who spearheaded efforts at the Beijing conference 20 years ago. She said the fight for equality is far from over.
We're not there yet, when we've nearly closed the global gender gap in primary school, but more than 30 million girls never go on to secondary school.
On the 8th of March, International Women's Day was marked around the world. In New York, thousands marched to Times Square, holding banners and chanting slogans to raise awareness and promote gender equality. In Somalia, women joined hands with the global community to mark the day with song and dance, as they spotlighted the role women and girls have played in rebuilding Somalia after years of war. An anniversary nobody wants to celebrate. The Syria conflict enters its 5th year. Nearly 250,000 people are dead. Almost half the population is uprooted from their homes.
The Syrian people feel increasingly abandoned by the world as they enter the 5th year of the war that has torn their country apart. They and their neighbors continue to suffer under the eyes of an international community still divided and incapable of taking collective action to stop the killing and destruction. It is also incumbent upon the Syrian parties themselves, including especially President Bashar al-Assad, to take decisive steps to end the bloodshed and to start a political process.
The UN Children's Fund, or UNICEF, says 14 million children are suffering because of the conflict in Syria and Iraq, with around 5.5 million children inside Syria in the most desperate straits. In Homs, a city destroyed by a 2-year siege, little remains to serve as a foundation for rebuilding.
I think 4 years into this crisis, what we really need to see is investments in the future of children. So restoration of basic social services, whether it's health, whether it's water and sanitation, whether it's education.
For teenagers who have known little other than war, opportunities to learn and build skills will be vital.
It's a huge tragedy that we may indeed end up in some of these places with rubbles, instead of looking at the beautiful temples, instead of looking at beautiful palaces and statues, we will look just at rubbles. And this is what I think is outrageous in the 21st century.
This week, Irina Bokova, the head of the UN Cultural Agency, or UNESCO, called on the international community to take action to stop the destruction of ancient treasures in Syria and Iraq.
I think we came to a point where it's obvious to everybody that with these activities, jointly of course with the other illicit trafficking of oil, of arms, drugs and all this, we see a turning point where they directly finance terrorism.
Speaking to the UN News Centre, Ms. Bokova said halting the destruction is no longer a cultural issue, but rather a security one.
We need also to create I would say, a global mentality, new mentality, consciousness to say this is immoral, this is unethical, this is not right.